Welcome to the training webinar. I'm Dale Franks, and this week we are going to pick up where we left off last week. And I might as well go ahead and start sharing my screen, right? Last week we talked about select statements, and that's really all that we talked about last week. And as we went through, we got progressively more complex with the SQL statements that we created. Today, we're going to talk about the other three basic types of SQL statements, starting with the update statement, which enables us to change existing data in the database. Last week, we talked about the where statement. That statement is going to be, or the where clause, that is going to be extremely important today as we talk about updating as well as deleting, although it will not be necessary in our insert statement. But for our update and our delete, we are going to need that where clause almost exclusively, unless we want to change the entire database, which we'll talk about in a minute. So let's take a look at where we'll be working today. I have a form which at the very top of it, and we saw this briefly last week as we transferred some data using a select statement to transfer some data from a data list, which I have here at the top of the form, into these form controls down here on the form itself. Today, we're going to use this form to extend that functionality. We'll be able to go grab some data out of our 857 record long list of airports, and then we'll be able to update them and delete them. And then we're going to talk about insert. Maybe I should have put these in different order, but I think update, insert, and delete is the order you want to see them on the page. And I think that will probably be the better order to talk about them in, especially because we'll leave the most dangerous thing you could possibly do, the delete command, for last. So to update data in a database, we need to use this update command. Now, the update command is pretty simple, and I have this table called SQL Airports, so that'll be the table that we use. So we're going to be updating SQL Airports, and we're going to need to be able to update all of the fields. Now, this gets a little bit tedious, although it isn't very difficult, because the update command consists of the primary command, update. What are we going to update? We're going to update the SQL Airports table. And then we have the set phrase. And the set phrase is where we determine what values are going to be set for each of the columns in our database. Now, as you can see, we have several of those columns here, all of which are going to come out of form fields. So we're going to need to use system variables for all of these form field names, which means I'm going to need to do a lot of back and forth on this because I don't think I have all of these memorized, although I think I named them as we look through them: airport country and airport elevation. I think I have them logically named, so it should be relatively easy for me to write my SQL statement. So we need to update the SQL Airports table with the data that we're going to take in this table. So here's how I perceive this to work. We may need to make some changes to some of the information in our database. So we'll need to select it out of our data list control and click the transfer data button to transfer it into all of these form controls at the bottom of the form in the SQL data section. Then we're going to need to make whatever changes we need to make. And once we've done so, we'll need to click the update button to make those changes happen. So let's write the SQL statement that will enable us to update the airports table with all of this data. So the very first is airport ID. So that's the first column we're going to change. But that's not what the column is called in the database. That is the form field that we are going to change it to. So we need to actually know what the columns are in the database. So The easiest way for us to do that is to just go to this all airport data business value here, and we'll take a look at the SQL airport columns. Now, other than the key column ID, all of my field names in my document are more or less the same as the airport as the airport columns in the database. So I've got airport city, airport code, airport country, and so forth. And that's convenient, which, by the way, is something you might want to think about. Now, I do have one problem with the column names that I've given them, which is this column right here, ID. Now, that is a valid column name for a database table. It's not a great one, I'll admit it. I should have called this airport ID. ID is one of those tricky names to use when it comes to databases. So tricky, in fact, that on a form, Process Director is not going to let you name a form field just ID. It's going to reserve that because that's a SQL reserved term. And so when I created the form, I called it airport ID. What I should have done and didn't, although I created the data, so it is totally my fault. What I should have done is called this field here airport ID. I didn't, but that's the only field that's different. So airport city, airport code, airport country, and so forth, those are the same names that I used in my form whenever I named my fields. So airport code, airport name, et cetera, that's fine. But the ID field is going to be different because in the database, I called it ID, which I shouldn't have done, but that's fine. We can now go in and begin writing our column. So I have the ID column, and I didn't even capitalize ID apparently. But now I need to throw in the value that we're going to set for this column. Now, ID is a numeric value, so all I have to do is put in the system variable for the form field for that, which is airport ID. So I'll throw in our system variable, as we talked about last week. The very first thing I'm going to need to put in there is the $sign to make this a SQL safe parameter. And then I can just go ahead and put in airport ID as my field. So it will set airport ID as the field. And now that I'm thinking about this, I actually don't want to set the airport ID because that is the key value in this field. That's going to be my where clause. So I don't want to change that value. The ID field is the unique field that identifies a specific record, and that is the field I need to use in my where clause to actually make the change. So again, I still just need to put ID where ID equals and whatever the airport ID is. The reason why the where clause is so important is because it identifies a specific record in your database. I only want to change the one record that I pull out of my data list and that gets populated down here in these fields. So I only want to pull that record. So for the ID field, I want to use that in my where clause because the ID field uniquely identifies a single record, and that is the only record that I want to change. Here's why the where clause is so important, because if I get rid of it and I began writing, set airport name equals, and now here, this is going to be a text value. And if you remember, like we talked about last week, I'm going to need these single quotes to specify that it is text. So I'm going to throw my quote there. I'm going to get rid of value 2, but I am going to put in the system variable for airport name. And I have a valid SQL statement, but it's a very dangerous SQL statement because without the where clause, what will happen if I run this SQL statement, which will work perfectly, is it will change the name of every single airport in the database to whatever value is in the airport name field. So I will overwrite every single record in my table. And that's why the where clause is so important, because that where clause specifies the single record that I want to write data to. So even if I get it as wrong as I possibly could, as long as I have that valid airport ID, then it's only going to change at max one record. And so the most I can mess up with a where clause like this is to mess up one record. Now, there may be times when you need to change multiple records, maybe not all of them, but multiple records. The where clause of a update statement enables you to do that too. So let's say I had a different where clause. So let's just go down here and write a weird little where clause. So let's say we want to replace every airport name that contains the letter A or contains ABC. Well, I can use, and let's just use airport name for this one. So I can use airport name, and instead of equals, because just like in process director, we have several different operators, one of which is equals. As you probably know, the equal operator is an exact match. So things have to match exactly for the equal operator to work. Now, in the context of a knowledge view filter, if you're looking for text, that's usually not great because exact text matches are very rigorous. And so whenever you use equals instead of, say, contains, in a process director condition, it's going to make sure that there is an exact match. And if there is no exact match, then by default, a knowledge view, like in a knowledge view filter, the knowledge view will return nothing, no records at all. Whereas if you use contains in a knowledge view filter, the default is just to return everything if your contains is empty. SQL Server has something similar to the contains. It works kind of in the same way, and it's called the like operator. So I can find where an airport name is like, and now again, we are, and we're going to use just a hard-coded thing here, although we could use a system variable. And I guess I should probably show you the syntax for both. So let me replicate this. So we'll see two different examples. But in the first example, I'm just going to hard code a value. Now, airport name is a text field, which means I'm going to need to have my little single quotes there to set off the text. And in SQL, I can also use wildcard characters. Now, I'm not going to go through a whole bunch of different wildcard characters because I'll tell you the one that you're going to use the most, which is, oddly enough, the percent sign. So if I wanted to look for something that just contained the text A, B, C anywhere inside the airport name, then this would be the syntax I would use. I would just say like, and then I'd have my single quotes, of course, because it's text, and then I'd have a percent sign at the beginning and the end of my text, and just say ABC. What this percent sign means is, look, I don't care how many letters or how many numbers there are before ABC, and I don't care how many letters or how many numbers there are after ABC. I want you to look at the entire value and look to see if anywhere inside that string, whatever airport name happens to be, George H. Bush, what is it? George H.W. Bush, Houston Intercontinental Airport, which would not, in fact, contain the term ABC, but it's a very long text string. And I need to search through that text string kind of sort of letter by letter, looking for this value, ABC, anywhere in that text string. And if I find it anywhere, then this where clause is valid and I will change the value in that record. So with a where clause like this, I'm going to change the value for multiple records. In fact, well, it may be no records. It may be all the records. I don't know, because I may not know how many records actually have this string of text ABC in that field. But if it does contain it in that field, I'm going to make changes to that record. It may be 5 records, it may be 10, however many it is, I'm going to change all of those records. So the update statement is very powerful, and it allows you to change from 0 to all of the records, depending on how you set the where clause. Now, if you're going to use a like operator with a system variable, well, it still becomes pretty simple to do. You just need to have your name and your wildcard character, which is the %sign, and just need to do that again at the end, which in this case would be % and a single quote. And in this particular case, it will look for any airport name in the database where the name contains whatever text is in the airport ID field. So you have a lot of flexibility with an update statement to change one or more records. That's not true of, say, the insert statement, where the insert statement, the most it's ever going to do, it's not going to change any existing records. It's just going to insert a new record, a single new record in your database. Delete, well, that's a dangerous one too, where the where clause is also important. We'll talk about that a bit later. So the flexibility of this update statement allows you to basically change pretty much anything you want in the process director database. And we're going to need to change all of these fields. So because I did not take the time to completely write out the SQL statement, we're going to need to add all these columns. Now, because I'm adding multiple columns, I need to set off each of these columns with a comma. So basically, the list of data that needs to be changed are essentially a comma separated list in the SQL statement. And so because I am, as I've mentioned so many times, lazy, I am just going to copy and paste my way across this. I have how many fields? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I don't need that comma at the end of it. So let's just change our field name. So I've got airport name, airport code. So we'll need to change that one. And as far as I can tell, all of my names are the same for both the fields and the I did airport name, right? Airport name, airport code, airport city. And then I can copy and paste airport city and then airport region. Excuse me. I copy that and then airport country and airport elevation. So airport country and airport elevation. I don't remember off the top of my head if airport elevation is a numeric field or not. Uh, I think it is, but I'm not sure. Um, so we're going to have to check and see how I created that. So we're going to go back to my original Excel spreadsheet, and we're going to look at that airport elevation column and see whether I made it a string or text. I made it text. So it is BP string. So that is a text string, which means that on my SQL statement, I will need to keep the single quotes because it is a text value. By the way, a general rule to keep in mind anytime you're dealing with any sort of database stuff, and I think I talked about this in the Excel data sources deal, and it's important to keep in mind. If I'm not going to do math on something, it's not a string. So let me go back to my downloads. Let me reopen the airports file. So as I just said, if I'm not going to do math on something, it isn't a number. It's text. There's a lot of things that we think of as numbers that aren't actually numbers. They're text, at least in terms of the database. Having said that, there might be some context in which I might want to do math on the elevation. And if so, if that is true, then I wouldn't want to make this a string. So, I mean, I may or may not do math on this. Apparently, I decided I wasn't going to do math. So it was going to be a string. But there are other numbers that we are never going to do math on. We're never going to do math on zip codes. We're never going to do math on phone numbers. We're never going to do math on street numbers. They look like numbers and they act like numbers, but we want to treat them as text. It's a little off topic, but there's a reason why. And I think zip codes serve as a very good example of why. Let me go ahead and close this. And since I've got Excel open, I'll just open a new blank file. Can I open a new blank file? I guess if I go to new, I can. So let's just open up a brand new workbook. I thought I closed this one, but apparently I didn't. Let's go ahead and close it now. So let's take a field like zip codes, right? So we'll call this field the zip code field, if we can spell zip code. So we'll call this the zip code field. And while we're here, let me just make this big so we can actually see what's going on. In America, zip codes are odd. We're one of the few countries that use an entirely numeric zip code. So Canadian zip codes, like there's a Toronto zip code, M5W1E6. Okay, fine. Well, it starts with the letter M, so I know it's not a number. And the same is true for most European countries and Asian countries. America has this weird thing where all of our zip codes are numbers. And like here in San Diego, 92111. Oops, didn't want to go up. 92112. But then we do something even weirder with our zip codes, because we have 92029, and then we have 92029 dash and then 4 digits after that. So is that text or is that a number? What is that? And why is my mouse selecting everything? Okay, what have I done with my mouse that makes it select everything? I don't escape. Does that fix it? Apparently it does. I don't know what I had set up there. But now in Excel, it becomes obvious because that minus sign there, that's a bad thing. That lets Excel know, well, I say it's a bad thing. in Excel terms, it changes what type of field this is, right? So this is actually text now because I've got that dash in there. That's a text character. So as far as Excel is concerned, this is now a text field, but these are all number fields. When I import them into a database, the import feature, and this is just how SQL Server works, it's going to say, okay, well, we have a field here called zip code. Let's take a look and see what kind of data this is. And if it sees a whole bunch of this, it's going to say, oh, well, these are all numbers, except that they aren't. They're text because it didn't actually get far enough down here to see that there is a weird set of numbers here. And so it's going to want to import this as numbers. And you don't want to import it as numbers, even if you don't have any 4-digit zip codes, although it won't be as big of a problem if you don't have 4-digit zip codes. But the problem lies in whenever you have a SQL statement where you have the order by statement, where we talked about last week, where we want to order it in a specific order. We can order it by name or by state or whatever. And if these are numbers, they will not sort properly when they're brought into SQL Server. And by the way, you can bring that into SQL Server as a number. Well, I don't remember what the protocol is when it sees this, whether it errors out, but it may just subtract 3456 from 92029. But the reason why you want to treat them as text is for ordering purposes, because in point of fact, 92029-3456 is a subsidiary part of the 92029 zip code. But if you bring it into SQL Server, what SQL Server may think this number is 920293456. I think what it does is it just blows past the minus sign and just gives you all of the numbers, which ain't great, because what I would expect for zip code sorting would be that these three fields, 101, 111, 112, hey, I actually put them in order. These three fields, if I was to sort this the way that I would expect it to be sorted, if it was text, it would sort them like this. And for the purposes of our demonstration, I'm just going to set the alignment to everything is to the right. So this is the actual sort order that I would expect to see if I was sorting alphabetically. And if you bring the data in as text, then it will sort them alphabetically. If you say that this is a number, then what's going to happen when it sorts is it's going to sort all of your 92029s together, but all of your 92029s that have the 4-digit suffix, it's going to sort them together all the way down at the end, because remember, in SQL Server, in most cases, that's what it thinks the number is. And obviously, this is a much larger number than that number. But in point of fact, it is not a number. It is text. So it's really important whenever you're doing your SQL or your original data, when you bring it in, it's important that if you have something like this, like zip codes, it's super important that you ensure that they are text and not numeric values. And so in my case, because I decided I wasn't going to do math on it, the elevation field became a text field. So it will sort properly. Well, in the case of elevation, it would sort properly both numerically and alphabetically, I believe. But if you have something like zip codes, then that is not going to happen. The other problem with like street numbers is some street numbers have numeric suffixes. Most of us are used to our addresses being, 1230 for my street. But sometimes you get 1234A or 1234C. Like sometimes the way that they parcel things out. If you live like in duplexes or fourplexes, you have the same address and you have, 1024 A, B, C, and D. But that's pretty rare. But if you bring in street numbers as numbers, that's probably going to fail because at some point in those street addresses, you're going to come up with a letter suffix to the street number. And SQL Server has already decided that this is supposed to be a number field. It'll see that and say, oh, we've got bad data here. And in most cases, it'll just completely back out of your transaction. So just some things to think about in SQL. Back to our proximate case here, airport elevation is, as we just saw, a text field. So I am still going to have to put it in those single quotes. Now remember, airport ID is a numeric field, so it gets no quotes around it. So I have a SQL statement that I think is going to work. Question now becomes, what do I do with it? So far, with Process Director, we've been talking about business values. And we had all these business values to pull the data from the database. And almost any time that you need to run a select statement on any sort of external data, you're going to want to use a business value. If you have a select statement, the business value is probably your best bet for pulling the data out of the database. The reason for this is because I only have to make it once. Once I make a business value and it exists in my system, it's really a global object. I can access that business value from any application, any form, anywhere in the partition, which is one of the reasons why, even though that I obviously for a training application where you need to have all of the data in one exportable package, I've got to have all of my business values as part of the sample application that I build during the webinar. But in the real world, you're going to want to have a business values folder. And in that business values folder, that's where your business values should reside. Now, it has the square brackets at the beginning and the end of the name. It is sitting at the root level of the default partition. And so the best practice is to have a business values folder at the root level of your partition on both your dev and staging and production machines. And that way, whenever I import an application, if all of my business values are in a business values folder on my dev and production machine, then my application can reference these business values. And when I import my application in from dev into staging or into production, it's going to look at the same business value in the same location, which is the business values folder right there at the root of the partition. And it's going to find that business value for me, and it's not going to cause me any problem on my import. So clustering all of your business values here is a great idea. So anytime I need to get data, the best choice is usually, not 100% of the time, but usually a business value, because that means I only have to create it once. And once I create it, it's reusable anywhere in the application. And that's fine because your business value is just pulling data from a database. Now, obviously, not all business values would work on all forms. This one would, simply because it has no parameters. If I have a business value where I have to pass a parameter to it, like this one, I've got to be able to get whatever form I use it on. I'm going to need to have a field that is going to pass this ID parameter back to the SQL command. But as long as I can do that, I can even use this anywhere in Process Director. I just need to be able to pass the ID for in this case, the customer contact data for that single record that I want to pull back a single record to display on my form or to fill out data on my form via a set form data. So this is all great if I'm doing select statements. You can ask for data from your database all day long and not really have to worry about it. But now we're talking about changing data. So we can't use a business value. Well, that's not true. We can use a business value, but we won't because it's an extraordinarily bad idea. Process Director does not vet your SQL. It doesn't look at your SQL and ensure that it's right. Doesn't look at your SQL to ensure that you did it properly. It doesn't try to help you or prompt you. It's going to pass whatever SQL that you put in it, and it's going to pass it to the database. Now, sometimes you'll test a SQL, or as we saw last week, tested a SQL statement. I had some misspellings in my SQL, and it's going to show you an error. That error isn't coming from Process Director. That error is coming from the backend database. All we're doing is just taking the error that we received from the database and present it to you. And that's all we're going to do in a business value. So technically, you could put any SQL statement you want in a business value. But if that SQL statement starts with the words update, insert, or delete, it's an extraordinarily bad idea. Because remember, business values are universally available and anyone can use them, which means anyone can run that SQL. So when you're going to do an update, insert, or delete statement, you don't use a business value. You want to maintain full control over what's going on with that statement. So if we take a look at our form here, you'll notice that I have an update button right here that is called, logically enough, button update. And I want to be able to run my update SQL statement when I click that button. What that means is that I need to use the SQL command custom task. So anytime you run an update, insert, or delete statement, you're going to go to the custom task event mapping of your form. If you're doing it on the form, it is certainly possible that you can run the custom or the SQL command custom task out of a process timeline. I don't have a process timeline for this form, so we're just going to use the form. So I am going to go to my custom task event mapping tab. I am going to add the custom task for that. So it is database connectors. There it is. Well, I could not see it. You would think alphabetizing things would be easy to figure out, but apparently it's not. But I'm going to pick the SQL command custom task from database connectors, and I'm going to add that custom task. I have my update button. So I'm going to set that as the event name because I only want to run it when I hit the update button. And now I have to configure the SQL command custom task. And apparently it's going to make me wait until it loads up, which I expect it to do in due course. I probably should have opened this up before the webinar started just so that the form would compile and I'd have a cache of it so it would open up quicker. But I didn't. And so now we wait. And I just talk to temporize rather than having a whole bunch of dead air while we just sit and stare at the little circle spinny on the screen. Presumably this will show up soon so that we can configure the custom task. By the way, prior to the existence of business values, since I apparently have some time to discuss it, the SQL command custom task was the only way that we could grab data out of a database. In fact, there were several custom tasks that were solely designed around doing that. There was the fill fields from database custom tasks, the advanced fill fields from database, the fill dropdowns from database, and the advanced fill dropdowns from database custom task. And anytime that you needed to grab external data and you needed to place it onto a form, you had to use one of the database connector's custom tasks. For filling data on a form, for filling dropdowns, those custom tasks are now all largely deprecated. There are a couple of edge cases where you might want to use them, but for the most part, you don't use them at all. You use business values to fill dropdowns or to fill data on the form, as we did last week. And we didn't even look at those custom tasks, but this is one that you do still use anytime you want to do inserts, updates, or deletes on your database. The downside of using a custom task to do this is also the upside of using a custom task to do this, which means you control exactly when and where this update statement runs. You don't have that control with a business value. You don't know who's calling it. You don't know who's invoking it or when they're invoking it. Once you put it out into your content list, it lives in the wild and it's accessible to everybody. SQL command custom task is not. It will only run in the single circumstance in which you want to run it. Now, for any of the select statements, like the fill fields or the fill dropdowns custom tasks, those got really tedious to use because I would have to take this custom task and I would have to, on a form like this, I'd have, well, how many business values do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So great. I would have to have 4 different buttons that invoked 4 different instances of either the set form data or the fill dropdowns custom task, or set form fields from database and fill dropdowns from DB. There were 2 versions of each of those custom tasks. So that's 4 custom tasks. And I would need to constantly place them on my form and reconfigure them over and over and over. That's why business values exist, so that I don't have to reconfigure things over and over and over just to grab data. But to change data, I do want that much finer level of control, hence the use of this SQL command custom task, because again, it's only going to run this SQL command on this form, and it's only going to run it when I click the update button. And I have ways of even ensuring that that doesn't happen very often, simply by hiding or showing various buttons in my form. So the first thing I need to do to configure the SQL command custom task is to find the data source, which is SQL Webinar Airports, because this would work because it's the same data. But let's use the one that is included in the application. So it is SQL Webinar Airports. That's this one right here. Let's connect just to be sure I connected. Yes, that's a good database connection. And so now I'm going to put a description of command update on airport record. I don't have to do this, by the way, but the description allows somebody who comes after me, if I, get hit by a bus, it will allow them to have some understanding of what my command is going to do. Now, you do have the ability to put in custom timeout times, which is the amount of time to wait for the database to return a value to you. We don't really need to do that here. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn that back off. There are also some other things down here for setting custom conditions. So for example, the form would have to have some data on it before even clicking the button would make it happen. Although in the case that we're creating here, I'm actually clicking the button. So I'm invoking it manually. It might be important to you check to execute the query only under this condition. If you were setting it to work in some sort of automated fashion and you only wanted it to run when certain conditions apply. But again, I'm doing it on a button click, so I don't need to do that. All I really need to worry about is that I have a good SQL statement. Now, I think it's a good statement, but I don't know if it is. And if I run it here, all I'm going to get back is an error because I don't actually have any data for any of my form field system variables. They're going to be empty. Also, I don't have an airport ID, so that's going to be empty as well. But you want to be real careful about clicking that execute SQL command button because it means what it says. We are going to execute this SQL command. Now, in my case, I don't care. Worst comes to worst, I blow up the entire database. I just check out and check the Excel file back in and it overwrites everything. That's easy for me to fix. In your case, however, in the real world, it probably won't be that easy to fix. As I said, I don't have any values here, so the database doesn't actually know what it is that I'm trying to do. And so when I run it, when I click it in this context, I get an error. I get SQL query failed. Now remember, this is not Process Director that is providing this error. Anytime I'm working with SQL commands, so if I'm using any of the SQL custom tasks, or if I'm using a business value, any errors that get shown to me are being shown to me from the database. Process Director is just taking the error that it's receiving from the database and it's displaying it to me in a banner. But this is not a Process Director error. It's a SQL error coming from, in my case, SQL Server. And so this tells me I don't know what you're going to do. You're saying set airport name equals blank, code blank, 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 or ID equals nothing, because this is a numeric field. So where ID equals just null, nothing, blank, it has no value. It does not know what I'm trying to do. So it's just going to send an error back to me. But remember, if I did something like super dangerous, so I'm just going to add it down here. And we'll talk about delete statements later. We're not going to get too in-depth into them. From what's this? What's the table? SQL airports. So let's say this was the SQL statement that I had here. And let's swap back over here to just to look at it so you can see it. Let's see, this was my SQL statement. Delete star from SQL airports. There's no where statement. There's no, if I run this SQL statement, it will delete every record from my database. That's pretty dangerous. And so if I am looking at the SQL command custom task and I say, okay, find delete star from SQL airports, I really, really don't want to click that execute SQL command button. That may be the most dangerous button that exists anywhere in Process Director because, like I said, Process Director is not going to vet your SQL. It's not going to ask you, are you sure that's what you want me to send to SQL Server? It's going to do what you tell it. And if you tell it to delete everything from your database table, it will delete everything from your database table because it is so eager to please. So you have to be careful with that execute SQL command button, which is weird because that button is either completely useless, as in this case, because everything here is all variables. None of them have any value in this context, so they return nothing. So clicking this button doesn't do anything. Our reason for putting it here was so that you could click it just to be sure that the SQL statement ran the way that you wanted to run it. So if you're doing an insert statement and you have hard values to insert, you can sort of run it and do the test, and presumably you'd go back and delete that record a bit later. But it's either, like in this case, completely useless, because in almost every case where I'm using this SQL command custom task, I am using system variables in some way. So in that case, this button is pointless because it won't do anything and it doesn't let me test anything other than the fact that it's talking to SQL Server. I guess I learned that. But other than that, this is an invalid statement, so it's not going to run. So I go from that to the second most frequent thing that might happen, where I actually do type in delete star from my table, and I click the execute SQL command, and it says, hey, we did it. We've deleted 5,000 records from your table. And in database, there's no takebacks, there's no do-overs, there's no undo. You've just deleted all the data in your table. So, word to the wise, be super careful about the execute SQL command button. Other than that, I think I'm pretty happy. All of my system variables have the $sign encoding character, so I should be able to hit OK, and it should be able to save my data. So it should work. I'm going to assume that my SQL statement is fine and everything is working the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to go ahead and update and run my form. Okay, so far so good. I have data. And I've got a record here, Furnace Creek Airport. And we are going to go ahead and transfer that data down to our form here on the bottom. So there's all my stuff for Furnace Creek Airport. In Death Valley National Park, which I suppose makes Furnace Creek a very apt name. Now, I'm going to want to update this record. In this implementation, I haven't messed around with showing and hiding buttons. I'm just going to assume that I can do any of these three things here without having to jump through hoops. I have in the past shown various ways of, hiding the update or delete or insert buttons based on either checkboxes or some values that you have here. But everything works at this point. So if I don't make any changes and I just click update, okay, it'll tell me, are you sure? I've programmed that into the button as a confirmation dialog. So are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Doesn't look like anything happened, which is exactly what we wanted to see. Because now let's try to actually change some data. So instead of calling it Furnace Creek Airport, let's say that we got the name wrong and it's actually Furnace Creek Air Park, because Air Park makes it sound like it exists in a much less arid and hellish environment than it actually does exist in. And let's update our record here. Again, I'll say, are you sure? Yes, I am sure. But look up here at the very top of my screen. In my data list control, couldn't remember what it was for a moment. In my data list control, it is now Furnace Creek Air Park. And since I've already got the data here, I can just do this over and over again. I can call it Cool Valley Air Park. Why, this sounds like a wonderful place to take your aircraft. It's a cool valley. No, it's Death Valley, and they call it that for a reason, but I can make the change. Now, every time I hit the update button, it is running that update command that is in my SQL command custom task. And of course, when the form refreshes, it pulls back these 20 records for that business value. And I can see this shown fully right there in my data list. So as I make changes, the changes are applied. So let's go back and call this Furnace Creek Airport, which is what it originally was. and we'll update again, get our confirmation, and there we are back at Furnace Creek Airport. So I've got an update working using the update command. So let's move on to something that isn't potentially destructive. Oh, I don't have anything configured for that. So there's no reason to click that button, is there? So let's go back and close our form, and let's talk about the insert command. So the insert command is weird, and it has a weird syntax. Which is probably a good time to talk about W3 schools. So out on the interwebs, the World Wide Web Consortium, also known as W3C, has a tutorial on SQL that is pretty cool because they keep it really simple. And again, they start with the select, with a little try it yourself thing. And it's kind of cool because the little try it yourself thing allows you to play around with this Microsoft database, which is, they've used for years and years, probably about 30 years at this point. So it's a really cool deal, and it's really easy. Some people often say, hey, well, why don't I just go to Microsoft's stuff? So by the way, this is w3schools.com/SQL. Right there. w3schools.com/SQL. So if you want a little help with SQL, that's a great place to go because the SQL statements are comprehensible. One thing I hate, and this is what people often try to do, like SQL statements. That's W3 schools. That's cool. Oh, there we go. Transact SQL statement, SQL Server. Well, this is where I need to go to learn about SQL. Well, this will be easy. And so let's look for, well, create, set, drop. Where's the, okay, well, let's find it easier. Let's just go with T SQL uh, update statement. There we go. Update, transact, SQL Server. Okay, fine. We're going to go to Microsoft and we're going to learn how to write this little update statement that I need to learn because I need some sort of refresher. So let's see how to, oh no. Oh no. This is their sample update statement. That's not helpful if you're not a SQL professional. Uh, okay, well, there's that. There's that. Okay, this is closer, but there's sure are a lot of curly brackets and square brackets and bars. Do they just have a sample, just a simple sample? Oh, they do, but there's a whole bunch of stuff to get to before I get to the update statement. Microsoft does not make it easy. They make it way more complicated than it needs to be. So I strongly recommend W3C school or w3schools.com/SQL because just like I did last week, they start you off at the very simplest level and they give you good, simple examples to use, as well as the ability to go into the try it now section and just play around with the SQL statement to be sure that it kind of does what you want it to do and that you understand how to make it work. So I say that because the update statement is, is where it starts to get weird. Everything up to this point is really comprehensible, and everything after this point is going to be really comprehensible. But for the insert statement, they went crazy and came up with this weird deal. And by the way, while we're here, I might as well just copy and paste right from here so that you don't have to watch me type. How convenient that I decided to go there. So here's the way that it works. They separate out the column names and the values. So insert into SQL airports. And now I'm going to do something. And the reason that I'm going to do it is because it makes it easier to follow because this gets kind of complex. The nice thing about SQL is it doesn't really much care about line spacing or line breaks. It just cares that everything is in the proper order. So I'm going to set it up like this so that these two parts here that are inside the parentheses go together. And it's important because we're going to have to do a lot of column matching, which is a huge pain when you're doing insert statements. The first part of the statement is super logical. Insert into SQL airports, which just says, I want you to add some data to SQL airports. And then it gets crazy because what it expects now is a inside parentheses. This is not optional. This is mandatory. Inside parentheses, I have to set the columns. So I have to set airport name, airport code, airport city, and we're going to have to keep going. Get rid of that. Airport region, airport country, and airport elevation. And unfortunately, in my case, I'm going to have to include the ID. Normally, that would not be necessary. Normally, the ID field would be an auto-numbered ID field, and the database would provide that automatically. Or, as in the case of process director objects, instead of using a numeric ID, we use a GUID, which again gets provided by the database automatically. I never have to set the ID of a field. In this particular example, the ID field is not an auto-numbered ID. So when I add it, I'm gonna need to create the ID for that field. I know I have 857 records, so I know what my last ID is. I believe it's 857. So this is going to make it a little more tedious for us because I'm going to have to track the ID. Normally, on an insert, you don't really care about the ID. The ID is handled automatically by the database, and so it's just going to create the new ID record whenever you insert the new data into it. But in my case, that's not true. I thought my cursor was down there. So we need to set the ID as well. All right, so we're saying insert into SQL airports, and then we're listing all of these columns where we're going to apparently insert something into. Name, code. I'm trying to be sure it's right. City, region, country, elevation, and then ID. Okay, so I've got all my fields there. So we're going to insert into SQL airports, and we're going to have these fields where we're going to insert stuff into. What are we going to insert into them? We're going to insert some values. And now the values that I place inside these inside these parentheses, that's what they're called, parentheses. The values I've put in these side of parentheses have to be in the exact same order as the values of the fields that I specify up here at the top. The set statement is so logical. Airport name equals this, airport code equals this. So why can't I just use this syntax and set the values of these new fields that I'm creating? No, you can't, because reasons. So now I have to go in and take each one of these. It's the same syntax. So, I mean, I guess that makes it easy. I have to go in and be sure that I get all this in order. So airport name, which by the way, is why I put it in order, in the order in which it appeared up here. So that it would be harder for me to mess this up. So airport city is third, and then airport region is fourth. And I forgot to get my opening single quote, but we can take care of that pretty easy. And airport country. So let me be sure I grab all of that data as well. Airport country, airport elevation, airport elevation, and then finally, airport ID. Now that is a numeric field, so it will not get the single quotes on either side of the system variable. So I only need these single quotes when it's text. So now I've got to be sure that that number one column, airport name and airport name, it's good when they all have the same name, isn't it? Airport code is second, airport city and airport city are third in both of those parentheses, airport region, airport country, airport elevation, and then ID, which on the form is airport ID. So this enables me to more easily match the SQL statement. Now, technically, you don't need to do that. I mean, technically, you could write your SQL statement like this, and it's perfectly fine. It's just way more of a pain to parse. So you do have the ability to, change your line spacing and make your life a little bit easier that way, so that you can sort of make it easier to do this weird sort of field and value matching that you have to do inside these two separate parentheses. But this is my insert statement, which will enable me to insert a new record into my database, assuming again that I've gotten everything right. So I can go now back to my custom task event mapping tab for my form, because now I have my SQL statements. I go to database connectors, SQL command, and I'll add that custom task. And obviously here, this is going to be the insert button. So that is button insert. And I'll configure the custom task here. So once again, we need SQL Webinar Airports. SQL Webinar Airports, that is my data source. We'll do a quick connect. We're connecting that, and we'll insert a new airport into the database. Okay, let's try that again. Airport, not the database. So let's fix that too, into the database. And now I am just going to paste my SQL statement. Now again, execute SQL command. It's not going to do much because I don't have anything to insert, all of my data are, as you can see here up here at the very top, they're all blank. So it's not going to do anything for me, but it should work on my form. So I should now be able to update and run my form. And let's see where ID is greater than, um, I think I have 850 records, but I'm not entirely sure. I do. Okay. So this is sorting it. Okay. So this is a numeric field, but it's sorting it as text. Um, so it's pulling it back as text in the data source. I'm not sure I like this, but it's a great example of the difference between sorting numerically and sorting by text. Because I'm asking for a field greater than 855. And if I sort it alphabetically, well, 856 is obviously greater than 855. 857 is greater than 855. 86 shouldn't be, but alphabetically it is. Because 85 whatever comes before 86. So 85 is less than 86 if I'm sorting alphabetically. Because when I sort alphabetically, I'm not concerned with the value of the field. I am concerned with going letter by letter and seeing which letter is greater. So 8 all goes together. That's great. But 8.5 comes before 8.6, even though numerically 86 comes way before 856 or 857. So this is one of the downsides of sorting things alphabetically when you have a field like this, which is actually text and it's getting sorted alphabetically. This, I believe, is an artifact of the data list, not of how the data exists in the database, but that's fine. 857 is my last record. And the reason I was looking for my last record is because I need to supply that ID, because in this data set, the ID is not an auto-numbered key. It's not a GUID, so I actually have to supply the ID. So I'm going to supply the ID of 858 for the ID, and my airport code will be ZZZ. I suppose that should all be capital Z's. My airport name should be um, uh, uh, since it's going to be a Z, I want to be able to use a lot of Z's here so I can find it. Um, airport region, we'll just say EU, airport country, um, DE, is it DE? Yes, I think it would be DE in this case for Germany. And the airport elevation, it's in Germany, so it can't be that high up. So we'll just say 358 feet. All right, well, I've got an airport. I've got a custom task. I got a button. Let's see what happens. We will hit insert. Do I want to add this? Yes, I do. And there is airport 858 that I just added to my database. It's working great. My insert statement works. I supplied all of the appropriate data. I am a happy camper. So now we've done the update. We've done the insert. We have a new record. Let's delete a record. I probably should have kept this when I had it pasted here a minute ago. So, okay, so right there, in terms of my airport data, is the most dangerous SQL statement I could possibly write. Delete star from SQL airports. If I run this, as we talked about a few minutes ago, it's going to kill every record in my database. It's going to empty it out. I will have no records left. So, generally, don't want to do that. I am generally going to want to have this where clause so that it only deletes the one record that matches the airport ID, which in our case, in just a few minutes, is going to be 858. The star is another wild card character that you can use in SQL, just as we did up here with our like statement. Did I get rid of that like statement? I guess I did, where we had the the percent sign. Um, the star means everything, all of it, the whole thing. So delete star. There are some, is it Oracle that allows you to do it or is it MySQL? There are some SQL that you'll see which will allow you to just use delete from SQL airports where the star is sort of implied and it works fine. But in SQL Server, we're going to use the delete star from SQL airports, which will delete everything. And in our case, it's going to be where um, ID equals airport ID. So we only want to delete a single record. Now, again, like the like operator that we had just a little bit ago, and I think it's probably too far past to undo. But I could use a like statement as well. So it could be where airport name, or let's just say I wanted to get rid of all the airports in a country. But airport name is better because I think all my countries are all 2-digit numbers. So I could just do, and that would get rid of all the airports in Germany. So that would probably be the way that you would do it. So most likely it would be the airport name because the airport name can be a whole bunch of characters. So we'll just go back here, like, and then we'll do our star, not our star, our percent. Um, and our percent again. The lights are reflecting off of my keyboard in ways that make the percent hard to see. Um, if I had a where statement like this, I suppose I should put the where on here. Where airport name like some text. I think I had ABC previously. So let's go back to what I previously had. Again, it will look through all of the airport names. It will find the ABC and it will delete them. So with the delete statement, just like the update statement, I can delete a single record all the way up to every record in the database. And in between, if I just wanted to, get rid of all of the airport names like ABC, it would just go through, find them all, and delete them all from my database. So we have to be real careful with our delete statement. Now, in our case, it's going to be pretty simple. We just want to delete from SQL airports where the ID equals whatever value happens to be in the airport ID field. So I don't even really need any of the other fields in my database to make this, or any of the fields in my form to make this work. But we're going to take that SQL statement. We're going to go back to process director and we are going to add our third and final SQL command custom task. So we'll add the custom task there. And now I have button delete, and we'll configure it. Once again, SQL Webinar -airports, which is right there. A selected record, airport record. And I can just paste my SQL statement. Once again, execute SQL command, not going to work. We don't have an ID. So SQL Server doesn't know what it is that I want to delete. But that's fine. We have a form. So once again, we can update and run our form. And I really hate that it does that. So we are going to look for 858. I believe that was the, so we'll see if it contains 858. There we go. There is my airport. So that ID is 858. I don't really need to fill any of this other stuff out. So, and of course, in a normal form for end users, I would want all of these fields hidden so that only the ID field was available for us to be able to delete our record. But now when I hit delete, I did get an error. Could not execute query. Please contact your administrator to correct the database connection. So what have I done? Connection to DB succeeded. Let's update and run. 858 was my record. So I should be able to delete. Really delete it? Yes, really delete it. Okay. Still have an error. Could not execute query. Please contact your administrator. Well, it is not deleting the record. So let's go back to my SQL command here. I know what record I want to delete, and that is 858. So we're going to go with 858. Oh, didn't want to hit OK. I mean, it's fine. I saved it. What I wanted to hit was execute SQL command, where ID equals 858. Is it possible that that is, in fact, a text field? Let me see if this works. Execute SQL command. Exception occurred. Incorrect syntax. Oh, it doesn't want the star. Is that my issue? Okay, well, that worked. All right, so the star not needed here. So now that works. So just delete from SQL airports. Oh, wait, no, I need to change that. Where is it? So I don't need the star. Now, I get confused on that star, and I'm not sure. I have tried it without the star and it hasn't worked, and I've tried it with the star and it has worked. I've seen this before where it just hated that I had the star in there. I'm not sure why. And it seems to me that it has required the star for me doing the stuff in the past. So that's a little weird. And I'm not sure if that's just a change in SQL or what it might be. But we have tested, we have gotten rid of our record 858. So let's rerun our form. And since I have this in Excel, I can always recreate it, which is really nice. So let's get rid of some airports. Let's see, that's 207. So that's this airport right here, Ganges Seaplane Base. Let's delete that one. It's gone, 116. Not 116 plus. Delete, really delete it? Uh-oh, it kept the 116 plus. Not what I wanted. Chernovsky Harbor Seaplane Base. You're gone. Kitoi Seaplane Base. I hate seaplane bases. I don't know why. So 349. Delete it. And it's gone. So I've got everything that I need to make this thing work. I can replace 349. Again, ZZZ, the airport in the region of in the country of and the airport elevation is 0. And I can insert a new 349. And let's find 349 to see if I inserted it. So we'll go with 349 contains, and there we go. There is my new airport. And of course, now that I've created it, I can just click the delete and delete it. And if I want to update an existing record, so we'll go back to no filter. So back to, let's go with Cliff Hatfield Memorial Airport. We'll transfer that data over here and we'll change it to Cliff Hartfield Memorial Airport, and we'll just update that record. And there we go, Cliff Hartfield Memorial Airport. So we are now good. We have a form that enables us to fully extract records from our database, fill out a data list control. We can then take that data from the data list control. We can change it and update it, insert an entirely new record, and delete any record that we want simply by using the SQL command custom task and the appropriate SQL commands for us to be able to manipulate our database. So, final thought, remember, it is w3schools.com/SQL. If you want to learn more, it's a really great tutorial, very simple. I think you'll like it for learning how to use SQL. Also, the other thing to keep in mind, if we're going to do update, inserts, or delete, always use the execute or the SQL command custom task. But anytime you're just extracting data from the database, then it's perfectly fine to use a business value to pull the data back that you want from the database. Keep in mind also, Process Director does not check your SQL before it sends it to SQL Server. It sends it as is, and whether SQL Server accepts it and runs with it or returns an error is determined by how good your SQL is, not by anything Process Director is going to do to stand between you and having the SQL that you want executed. For those of you who do know a lot more about SQL, or if you need something more complex done in order to return data or to change data, Process Director, because it doesn't vet your SQL, does enable you to write entire stored procedures. I mean, technically, if you just really wanted, well, I don't like that. That's not good. But if I wanted to make this big here and I wanted to write some really complex stored procedure to pull data out of SQL Server or in the SQL command custom task to alter data in my backend SQL Server, there's no problem with doing that at all. We don't place any limitations on the SQL that you can send. Whether your SQL works or whether it destroys your database is entirely up to you. And with all of those caveats and final thoughts, have a great week. We are now done with this particular 2-week run of webinars, and we will probably be back next week. However, my mom broke her arm. I'm going to need to take her to see the doctor next week for a follow-up. I may or may not be here Thursday. I think I'm going to be here Thursday. I'm definitely not going to be here Wednesday, but we're going to see how it all works out. In any event, I will hopefully see you next week. So have a great week, and we'll plan on seeing you then. If not, I'll cancel next week's webinar, and you'll receive a cancellation note in the mail. But personal things, sometimes I think I've done a pretty good job over the last 6 or 7 years of these webinars of not letting personal things interfere, but life is what it is. So sometimes it does. In any event, have a great week. We'll look forward to talking to you again next time. Until then, so long.